this summer I decided to get my DNA sequenced by 23andMe. I wanted to know my ancestry as well as find out if I'm a carrier for any genetic disorders, since my husband and I want to try and get pregnant soon. When the results came back, everything was what I expected. I was Romanian and German. I had the sun sneeze reflex, etc. The surprise came when I clicked on the relatives tab. At the top of the list, it showed my parents, except there weren't 2 parents. There were 3. John T., father, 50.0% DNA shared. Agnes T., mother, 50.0% DNA shared. G., mother, 50.0% DNA shared. I stared at the last one. What? I scrolled up and down the list, but the rest looked normal. One of my brothers came up, along with an aunt and some cousins. Curious, I clicked on G's profile, but there wasn't any other information. To see details, like her ancestry or shared relatives, I'd need to connect with her. Probably just a glitch or something. Or maybe my mom made 2 accounts by accident. I closed my laptop and tried to forget about it, but for the rest of the day, it bothered me, like a little itch in the back of my brain. Maybe it isn't a duplicate account or a total glitch. Maybe she's some secret aunt or something, and 23andMe just overestimated the shared DNA. I'd read the horror stories of 23andMe uncovering family secrets like that, so that evening I decided to hit connect. I didn't really expect her to accept, but just a few days later, she did. I went over to the 23andMe website, my heart pounding. When I scrolled down, I saw my ancestry composition and G's side by side. Her ancestry looked like my mom's, almost 100% Romanian, but it was slightly different. My heart pounded faster. I opened 3 tabs: my mom's ancestry, my dad's, G's, and mine. My eyes darted between them, comparing them, studying them, and after several minutes, I realized it. I was 1% Scandinavian, but neither my mother nor my father had any Scandinavian ancestry. Only G did. A chill went down my spine. I stared at G's profile, at her empty profile picture. Who is she? I told my husband all about it. He thought I was overreacting. It's just some glitch, he said as he flipped the chicken on the stove. 23andMe must have sequenced the DNA wrong, or mixed up the samples, or something. It's creepy though, isn't it? Yeah, I guess. He opened the cabinet, rummaging around for plates, but there's just so much room for error with that DNA stuff. I tried not to think about it, but my night was plagued with nightmares of G, a faceless woman calling from the forest, who had my long dark hair and tall stature, a second mother who, somehow, had given me her DNA. When I woke up, though, I realized something. If I shared 50% of my DNA with my father and my mother and G, well, 50% plus 50% plus 50% did not equal 100%. One of my parents had to share DNA with G. I called my mom on the way to work. Did you see anyone listed in your DNA relatives named G? I asked as I pulled onto the highway. G, she repeated. Yeah, there's just a person named G who keeps popping up on my DNA relatives. I don't think so, she replied, but I don't know. The website is kind of hard to use. Brandon was helping me with it. Could you ask? Yeah, sure. Gotta go now, though. With that being a dead end, I decided to bite the bullet and send G a message. Most likely, it'd be some big misunderstanding. G was probably some stranger living on the other end of the country with no connection to me whatsoever. Hey, I noticed 23andMe listed you as a relative. Do you have any family members with the last name T or K, especially in the Northwest US? Are you related to my mother, Agnes T? The response came less than an hour later, and when I read it, a slow chill ran down my spine. You will find out soon enough. That was the whole thing, the whole response, those cryptic 6 words. I quickly shot a message back. Are you related to me or my mom? No answer. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Then, in one swift motion, I moved my cursor up and removed her as a connection. Just a troll, a scammer, something weird like that. A few days later, I checked 23andMe again to find that G had removed her account, or possibly that the glitch had been fixed, because G was no longer listed as my mother or a relative at all. Weeks went by and I forgot about the whole thing. Work got busy, gardening season was in full swing, and my hours were spent either working late in the office or slaving over my plant babies. I didn't even give G a second thought until one morning it all came crashing down. 2 pink lines. My husband and I spent the morning crying, hugging each other, overjoyed about this little person we would bring into the world, until I went to the mailbox. Inside was a folded piece of pink paper tied off with black ribbon. No stamp, it must have been hand-delivered. My throat went dry as I flipped it open and read the words on the page. Meet me at D Park at midnight tonight. G. I took the day off work. I'd barely slept. I kept thinking she was going to come back. When I finally got up for the day, though, I realized the situation was probably a lot less creepy than I thought. She wasn't some long-lost relative or Rumpelstiltskin baby stealer. She was under the influence of drugs or suffering from mental illness. Those were the only explanations. Of course, that didn't explain the DNA results or how she knew I was pregnant, but I forced all those nagging questions out of my head and tried to move forward. By the afternoon, I was feeling much better about the whole thing. Then the bleeding began, and my entire world came to a stop. I began to sob. No, 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 I can't lose the baby. I can't. My mom had told me once about the miscarriage she'd had before my brothers and I were born, how it had nearly destroyed her. I thought I'd understood how horrible that was for her, but now, as I sat there staring at the smear of blood on toilet paper, I knew I hadn't really understood. Until now. I called Danny. He left work immediately. We called the doctor and they told me to go on bed rest. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't help. They won't be able to save your baby. She knew I was pregnant. She knew my baby was going to be lost forever. She wasn't just some crazy woman. She knew. The shrill ring of my phone snapped me out of my daze. I grabbed it and my heart leapt as I saw the name on the screen. Mom, I cried. I've been trying to call you all day. Before she could say much else, I told her everything. The pregnancy, G visiting in the middle of the night, trying to break in, and the impending miscarriage. Kayla, she started, and there was something about her voice that made my heart drop. You need to find her. What? There's so much I haven't told you. Her voice shook as she spoke. Her name is Grezel. She came to me when I was 8 weeks pregnant with you. The doctors were having trouble finding your heartbeat, and I thought I was going to have another miscarriage. She offered me a deal. She would be able to save you, but in return, he would carry some of her DNA. I don't know how she did it. I don't know why. I just knew that I was scared and desperate and willing to do anything to save you, even if it sounded completely crazy. I met her in the woods. We did this sort of, I don't even know, a blood ritual. That's the best way I can describe it. I don't believe in witchcraft or anything like that, but whatever she did, it worked. A few days later, when I went to my appointment, you were fine. I waited for her to say more, but she didn't. I was frozen, with the phone up to my ear, heart racing in my chest. Wait, the gears spinning in my head finally caught. But she has to be related to you. The DNA test said I'm 50% you, and Dad, and her, so there's got to be overlap. I don't know anything about that, she said. I just know that she'll save the baby, but I have no way of contacting her. What if she doesn't come back? I pause. Then she'll come back. After the call, I just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to process everything she told me. Why did Grezel share DNA with my mom? Did she somehow steal it during the blood ritual? Maybe she was some sort of inhuman creature that needed to suck DNA off everyone else. Maybe that was the trade. This was starting to sound like some twisted fairy tale, one of the uncensored ones where everyone dies horribly. My mom was right. A few hours later, I was interrupted from my thoughts with a loud thump, thump, thump on the front door. I ran down the stairs as fast as I could, but when I swung the door open, Grezel wasn't standing there. Instead, there was another piece of pink paper, scribbled in black marker, were the words, "Meet me in the woods behind the mall at midnight. Come alone." Gee, the forest was dark. I heard the chittering of bats overhead, somewhere, as they swept through the air for their nightly meal. The leaves crunched under my feet as I continued further in. Just as I was starting to lose hope, I saw her, a dark silhouette, standing in a small clearing off to my right, wearing a long, black gown that draped so effortlessly over her body it looked like it was made of shadow. Her dark hair, streaked with silver, cascaded down her back. "Grezel," I called out. She turned around. Her skin was so pale in the moonlight, it looked like it almost glowed. I see you've decided to join me. Can you save the baby? Her lips twisted into a crooked smile. Yes, she crooned. Come closer. I slowly stepped towards her, my heart hammering in my chest. Up close, I realized she appeared older than I thought she was. Deep wrinkles cut her face, crinkling around her eyes. And her eyes, there was something off about them. Her irises were pure black, and they were too large, giving them an almost bug-like appearance. Are you ready to begin? I nodded. She pulled a knife from the folds of her dress. The silver blade glinted in the moonlight. She smiled at me, crookedly, and drew it along her palm. Then she grabbed my right hand, turned it over. I let out a soft cry of pain as she dug the blade into my skin. Dark blood bloomed out of the wound, glinting in the moonlight. Then she pressed her palm against mine. A tingle of pain shot up my arm. I could feel something, traveling up my veins and deeper into my body. Then it dissipated, and we were standing there together, staring at each other in the darkness. Your child will live, she whispered, and they'll be okay. You're not going to take them from me, or did I take you from your mother? I shook my head. She turned around, her black dress swirling around her. We are done here, but something didn't sit right with me. It was too easy. What did Grezel get out of all this? My DNA. Why would she want to save my baby? Just to genetically be their mother, not to steal them or raise them as her own. Wait, I called out. There's got to be something you're getting out of this. She turned back towards me, her wild dark hair falling in front of her face. What's the catch? Tell me. I don't want to spend my whole life dreading it. She paused, her smile growing wider, and then she spoke. Your children will carry my DNA. So will your brother's children, and so will your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren, and your great-great-grandchildren. My DNA will lay dormant in them, spreading silently, generation by generation. Her smile grew wider. Then, one day, when I am ready, my soldiers will come out of dormancy, and we will reclaim the forests and rivers, the earth that you destroyed, the earth that belongs to the Fae. Then she turned on her heel and walked deeper into the forest until the shadows swallowed her up.